Happy Friday. So, yesterday we kind of touched on puzzle pieces and all the weirdness and shit that's going on. And I was referring to this that I actually found. It's a New Horizons Youth Ministries Inc. And it was actually here in Marion, Indiana, where I am. So, actually, I'll bring up that cover page for you. So, as you can see, it's got the New Horizons Youth Ministries name. It's got their case number, their hearing date, the jurisdiction, filed, the sole issue before the administrative law is in regards to revocation of the child caring institution license for New Horizons Youth Ministries, Inc. And then I will go on to read you a couple of these details because going through this, it just drove me crazy because names popped up that just seemed familiar. And then, I just been researching and Googling and I finally figured it out. So the findings of fact. Appellant New Horizons Youth Ministries was licensed as a child caring institution by Indiana Department of Child Services under license number 33447. The only facility covered by Indiana license is located in Marion, Indiana, and is known as New Horizons Academy. On October 2nd, 2009, a certified letter was mailed to the appellant by Regina Ashley, Deputy General Counsel for DCS, which stated the following. The letter is to inform you that the Indiana Department of Child Services, DCS, is revoking the child caring institution license of New Horizons Academy. A license shall operate a CCI in compliance with the rules established under Indiana Code 3127 and is subject to disciplinary sanctions if DCS finds that the license has violated this article of the rule adopted under the article. NHA's second probationary period ended September 30th, 2009. A probationary status period is for not more than 6 months. However, DCS may extend a probationary period for one additional period of 6 months. At the expiration of the second probationary period, DCS shall revoke the license, which they were on their second. Let's see. Regarding discipline and guidance, NHA's policies include use of physical discipline as consequences to behavioral problems for residents. Physical discipline consists of 100 exercises per unit of concern, such as push-ups, sit-ups, mountain climbers, squat thrusts, 2-mile run, saw logs. NHA policy lists disrespect as a unit of concern category and is 5 units of concern. Thus, if a resident disrespects a staff person at NHA, they may have to run 10 miles or do 500 sit-ups, push-ups, etc. NHA also uses the inappropriate methods to control behavior. An hour of unpaid work per units of concern, behavior supports, and haircuts. For example, one resident explained that if a resident gets into a fight, staff at NHA will hold a random section of hair and just cut it. This is supposed to be NHA policy. Examples of behavior support are notebook support, resident being restricted from speaking and only able to communicate through written form. Doorway support. Resident must perform a number of exercises before entering any room or building on campus. Square meal support. Resident required to eat only in specific manner involving the creation of a right angle. And sleep manner. where one trustworthy student is required to place under their mattress near the door in their bedroom in an attempt to prevent or deter the other student who has been placed on precaution from exiting their bedroom. NHA continued to utilize these non-therapeutic techniques for the residents despite DCS giving directive they cease and desist these practices immediately. And that was during a visit to the facility. And then we got violation regarding visiting and correspondence and regarding services to families. The family visitation and phone call policy remains unclear. Despite 1 year probation, when NHA has placed on probation, children were not permitted to have telephone contact with their family for 2 months or visitation with their family for 7 months after admission. Family therapy was not permitted until 9 months. In addition, all phone calls are recorded, scrutinized, and counselors can give residents consequences as a result of the phone conversations. These policies are not appropriate for maintaining connections between children and their families. The current policies are silent on whether children can visit their families any sooner than 7 months. In addition to above, other programmatic concerns include policies which cover resident relationships, including romantic relationships, physical intimacy. An example is a policy which requires residents to obtain a certificate of affection from staff in order to pursue a relationship with members of the opposite sex, which requires the residents to first kiss to be in front of the staff and the residents of the facility, and which requires any further kissing and hugging to be in the presence of the house father. But the kissing and the hugging must cease if and when others become uncomfortable. These are not appropriate policies for a residential treatment facility. And mind you, these are kids that are 14 and under 18. The above areas of concern, as well as others, which are listed in the attached letter, have been cited and discussed with various personnel. And therefore it is necessary for DCS to revoke NHA's CCI license. In October 2009 letter, appellant was given the opportunity to request informal meeting within 10 days and the administrative hearing within 30 days after the receipt of the notice of the letter. An email request for an appeal was received by DCS licensing unit on October 19th, 2009. The request was forwarded to DCS Hearings and Appeals and filed on October 2009. A notice reflecting the date and time, place, scheduled hearing, and other rights available to the appellant was sent to the appellant on October 19th, 2009 by the Hearings Appeals Coordinator. A hearing was scheduled to be heard on November 20th, 2009. The hearing was converted to a telephonic status conference upon receipt of request to continue the hearing by appellant, and the hearing was reset to be heard on December 16th. The hearing was heard on December 16th and 17th, 2009 at the Indiana Government Center South Conference Center in Indianapolis. At the administrative appeal hearing, appellant New Horizons Youth Ministries, Inc. appeared by CEO Tim Blossom. Now, try to keep in your head these names. So let's see. CEO Tim Blossom and by counsel Philip Stevenson. DCS appeared by DCS licensing and placement manager Beverly Gatlin and by counsel Jill Sandifer. The following witnesses were also in attendance: DCS Human Services Consultant Myron Dance, New Horizons Counseling Director John Stark, and New Horizons Managing Director Zach Blossom. So we have a Tim Blossom and a Zach Blossom. In addition, 2 parents of the children formerly placed in the facility were present for the period of their testimony. And then it goes on to give a bunch of codes. New Horizons license was placed on probationary status on October 3rd, 2008. A secondary probation period was initiated by DCS on April 3rd, 2009. Okay. So, while New Horizons Youth Ministries, Inc. also operates facilities in Dominican of Republic and Canada, and any facility owned or operated by the entity beyond the legal boundaries of Indiana is not covered by the Indiana license. New Horizons Academy, the facility located in Marion, Indiana, closes over the summer months, and residents are placed in facilities outside the United States. So they take your kid in the summer months and take them out of the country without discharge. Without discharge. As a part of the standard operation. Only the facility in Indiana is addressed in this decision. No care and supervision of any resident during the period of the time that the child is taken outside of the United States is covered by the license granted by Indiana through DCS and the licensing agent, which is why they do it. NHA is located on an unknown number of acres in Marion, Indiana. There is an old school building on the grounds that is used for administration building, and in addition, a new school building, a maintenance shop, 2 staff houses in which the directors reside with their families, and 4 student homes, which include a dormitory and a sick room, are present. Over the prior 2 years, only 2 of the student housing units have been used to house children, 1 for girls, 1 for boys. The 2 other student homes have been utilized for additional staff housing. According to the testimony of NHA counseling director, 5 licensed counselors were on staff at the facility with psychiatric counseling outsourced. Regarding the population of children placed at NHA, residents were both boys and girls, ages 14 through 18 years of age. Last year, a total of 22 children were placed at the facility, with approximately 6 girls, 6 boys being placed at any one time, and this is from DCS. DCS wards placed at that facility since 2000. As to the violations and service to families, DCS asserted New Horizons Academy inappropriately failed to ensure family therapy because the family counseling policy specifies no family therapy is offered to the children and their parents until the child is a resident for 9 months. 9 months. No revision to the family counseling policy was provided to DCS prior to the revocation of the license. The student visits policy dated August 2000 references that the first visit with the family only after 7 months of placement, and family counseling only after 12 months, and the letter dated March 25th, 2009, signed by Tim Blossom. Remember that the New Horizons calling is to the private sector. The listing of 4652964 and 68 SIC is being done in practice with New Horizons parents prior and continued approval. Parents are in attendance when treatment plan is written. We are unaware of the existence of a problem here. As to the violation of discipline and guidance, DCS asserts NHA staff, in accordance with the written policy addressing behavioral supports, points, and level system consequences and units of concern assessed to the residents, are inappropriate methods to control the behavior of the children. Behavioral supports were identified in NHA's written policy exhibit to include requiring a child to carry a bucket of water wherever they go, not to speak, but to rely solely on the notebook to communicate with others, and to complete 1 to 5 push-ups before entering any room or building on campus. Another support involved having all the students' clothing confiscated, with the student being required to ask to get clothing items from staff. Another behavioral support involves a trustworthy student sleeping on a mattress near the door to monitor the exit or the bathroom after hours. DCS specified its disapproval in written correspondence, as children should not be expected to or required to supervise each other's while in treatment. And in NHA's position, as stated in the correspondence on March 25th, 2009, as to supports, that supports are no more than reminders that the student willingly chooses to do what the students choose to do to help them to overcome themselves. Additionally, the letter claims that the technique works. I find that hard to believe, but they'll say just about anything. Another NHA policy that incorporates physical exercises and points level system, DCS exhibit. Each level a child achieves is tied to exercise as optional. It is identified as a requirement. In order to move to a higher level at the facility as follows: do 10 perfect push-ups and sit-ups and squat thrusts. NHA's consequences policy states up to 10 exercises for any one minor offense can be determined by a supervising staff member. In addition, the resident's belongings can be confiscated by staff if forgotten or left out of place. The resident's consequence is $10 and 10 push-ups for each item. A child reported to DCS staff on January 6, 2009 that the children do not pass inspection. Their belongings are indeed confiscated and they must do push-ups and pay a fine to get them back. Another child reported that when phone calls were allowed, the calls were recorded. If they mentioned checked topics, they got in trouble, received units of concern. And then child also reported that the week prior to the staff member was belittling her in front of others and said, "Do you want to see her get her hair cut? Just hit me." So she did. Thereafter, she was restrained and her hair was cut. DCS staff observed that the hair did look like it had been cut in an uneven manner. DCS found that the policy allowing a staff member to cut a child's hair as a consequence or manner of discipline is inappropriate for a licensed child caring institution for treatment. And it goes on about the rules and the codes. A separate child interview revealed one girl was retained in a secure care room, concrete walls, and floor with a metal door with no chair for a period of time in excess of 24 hours. She was released for work duty, including using the machete and digging large holes at night. She was given something to sleep on. Units of concern can also involve work by a resident at NHA. For insubordination, a resident is required to provide 10 hours of unpaid work for the facility, according to the units of concern policy. According to John Stark, a day of the week that the child is designated to provide community service is unpaid. For other days, the resident is required to work for a designated period of time and is paid in accordance with his or her level of facility at that facility. Level 0 residents receive no pay for working. Level 1 receives 50 cents an hour, up to $2, and up to $2.50 per hour for level 5 residents. The pay is kept in an account for toiletries and snacks. In some instances, funds were also used for activities of the resident. As to discipline, every hour worked equals an hour of concern assessed. No pay is received for the work done by the resident in those circumstances. That is understanding to the DCS, and the residents were generally paid a minimal amount to chop wood, and at NHA, and the efforts of the children were not voluntary. Then we have, I mean, to sum it up, so they weren't allowed to call home. They weren't allowed to have phone calls from their parents or caregivers. They weren't allowed to receive, well, they were supposed to receive mail, but they didn't get it. They never got it. And then here, it's September 2nd, 2009, email from Zach Blossom. DCS, the phone call policy requires recording of phone calls with the review under specific circumstances. No assurance of phone calls with family is ensured by revised policy with the information regarding timeframes was removed. In accordance with NHA students visits policy, visits between parents and their children are prohibited for the first 7 months and the child's placement in the facility. Although the policy allows for the timing of the visit to be altered for therapeutic reasons, it states all New Horizons therapeutic decisions are final. Therefore, NHA staff could extend the visits to begin even later or begin earlier with no oversight. DCS view that as policy discourages family visitation without justification in violation of maximum interaction and involvement between the parent and child is encouraged. And then the family counselor specifies no family therapy is offered to the children and then their parents until the child had been in the resident for 9 months. No revision to the family counseling policy was provided. It was determined by Myron Dance through his interview, which is the DCS worker, through his interviews that the mail was also monitored and consequences were given to the children if they mentioned certain things during calls and written correspondence. However, recording the calls and imposing consequences as a result of the communication was seen as abnormal and inappropriate. All children in any level, according to the points and level system, DCS Exhibit 1 and S, have the following restriction. All outgoing mail is read. All incoming mail is inspected and read. There is no requirement that there be a reasonable fear that contents could harm the child or others in accordance with the Indiana Administrative Code. In addition, other policies and practices at New Horizons Academy were a concern to DCS, specifically the policy facility regarding relationships and intimacy, staff-student redemptive relationships policy. And then it just goes on with a bunch of codes. So, and then here, communication with NHA regarding the need for necessary compliance and updated written policies. He sent a reminder to Zach Blossom on May 5th, 2009, confirming that the outstanding issues remained in response. Additional time was required by Zach Blossom. Mr. Dance responded to that reminder that unfortunately New Horizons is already in the second probationary period and time is of the essence. Tim Blossom sent a letter. Mr. Dance on May 15th. The letter states that the child care model for the facility would be reviewed over the summer when New Horizons was closed and that the policies and manuals would be rewritten at that time. So that's that. And then we get to here. So John Stark, counseling director for New Horizons Youth Ministries, testified that the administrative hearing, he makes big distinction between his private paid placements and DCS placements. While the behaviors and attitudes of children may look the same, he sees DCS kids as emotionally needy kids who never had anything, and when they were growing up, they were never given proper parenting. Therefore, he treats them differently when they come to NHA program. He is aware that DCS Representative Myron Dance came to the facility and pointed out the policies that needed to be updated depending on the policy. His supervisor, not the written policy, was often his guidance at the facility and was aware that the many policies was outdated and did not coincide with NHA practice. In practice, he modified the policies with approval from his supervisor. He describes NHA policies to be in flux. His understanding to the reason NHA wants to be licensed by DCS is to have accountability by the state. Mr. Stark deferred to Zach Blossom for NHA issues related to the units of concern. we have as to NHA policies related to consequences, units of concern. He is familiar with the discipline at the facility and personally administered or approved units of concern for discipline in since 2004. He reported that the child could choose to lose a level at the facility or another consequence instead of physical exercise as long as a staff member feels the consequences chosen is related to the bad behavior. While he referenced an incident report as a method of available for child to object to an appeal of physical exercise and discipline, incident report was also used to report an injury, missed medication, or anything else in which the documentation that was needed at the facility. No reference to the use of the incident report policy identified. Tim Blossom testified to the administrative hearing. He was aware of the NHA became licensed as a child caring institution, and he feels that the facility is not a good placement for DCS children because they do not have strong Christian backgrounds. The number one criteria for NHA placement is religion. Residents are 15 to 20% pastors' kids or from missionary families with strong Christian background. Other placements view them as religious freaks or cultish. In his opinion, those children would not be successful in their program. He was retired, but came back to New Horizons in February 2009. When he returned, NHA leadership viewed the efforts by Byron Dance as jerking around because of the issues that resulted in the original probationary period, including the therapeutic needs of the resident and allowing exceptions are not identified in written policy. So those were the names. So I have them all written down. Everybody that was involved with at least Indiana, and so these Canada and Dominican Republic. We have Tim Blossom, John Stark, Zach Blossom, who is the managing director, Chuck Redwine, Phil Redwine, and then Gordon Blossom and Graham Higgs. Now, all their names are not in this paperwork, all the Blossoms are, but I found additional stuff that I can't show because they're victims. And they're victims of not just the physical and horrible treatment, but sexual abuse too. So then after looking into that, I thought, well, gosh, they were closed down in 2009. What do people like that do when they're closed down? So naturally, I went through the report and looked at all the names, and then I started researching the names and trying to figure out if I can find where any of these people are. So I came up with, let me see. Sunshine Residential Homes operates multiple foster care group homes with administrative support based in Phoenix metro area, specifically affiliated with Glendale, Arizona. The program provides residential services for children across the various locations in Arizona. Key details regarding Sunshine Residential Homes include location, organization is associated with Phoenix metro area. Services they provide care for children and foster care, focusing on educational, medical, and emotional abuse. So obviously, from one extreme to the other, they don't want state kids, but now that's what they're seeking. And they have a whole facility. It's like a compound. So looking through Sunshine, I found, lo and behold, Zachary Blossom. So prior to this, Zachary gained experience in client engagement and sales at 4 tire distributors. Their work history includes contributing to sales growth and supporting customer satisfaction. Now, we know that's not true. So this is the beginning. Zachary Blossom is the manager in operations at Sunshine Residential Homes, bringing expertise and operational strategies within structured living environments for children, and their work involves overseeing team functions to support children who have experienced abuse, abandonment, and neglect. They contribute to the providing safe environment and opportunities to health and emotional well-being, building experience and community support, blah, 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 blah. Nothing they say on here is going to be true. So you see that. Let me see, who is that? That we got that. So as of 2026, Sunshine Residential Homes and its owners, Simon and Elizabeth Katator, I believe, are the center of multiple high-profile investigations regarding a pay-to-play scheme, financial deception, and incidents involving child safety. The primary allegations include pay-to-play political scandal, political donations, owners, Simon and Elizabeth, I think, Cotier, and the company allegedly donated $400,000 to Arizona Governor Kate Hobbs in 2023 inaugural fund and the state Democratic Party. Selective rate hikes following the donations. The Arizona Department of Child Safety, DCS, approved a 30 to 60% rate increase for Sunshine Residential, amounting to roughly $4 million annually. Yeah. Exclusion of competitors. Sunshine was reportedly the only group home provider out of dozens to receive such an increase during the Governor Hobbs' tenure, while other providers were denied similar requests. Financial deception and fraud, falsified hardship claims. The company allegedly claimed that facing a $4.5 million deficit to justify the rate increase. However, the investigative reports and audits in 2025 revealed that the company actually had an operating income of $440,000 that year. Shareholder payouts. The deficit was the reportedly manufactured by seven-figure payout for shareholders, which moved the company's finances from the black into the red. So then part of that investigation was child and safety negligence. So we have a wrongful death lawsuit. A lawsuit is ongoing regarding the death of 9-year-old Jacob Blodgett, who died in the company's care after staff allegedly failed to administer necessary diabetes medication. Recent teen deaths investigations were reignited in 2025 following the deaths of two other teens, Sarah Beth Saklowski and Zariah Finley Dodd, 16, who both died shortly after walking away from Sunshine Residential facilities. Licensing violations. Previous state inspections documented numerous violations related to cleanliness, inadequate staff supervision, and poor record keeping for immunization and allergies. And let's see. Sorry. So then I looked up the kids because I didn't get no more information about that. And this is ironically Sarah Beth when she walked away. Well, technically she ran away. She died in a fatal motorcycle accident. Circumstances. She was reported missing from Sunshine Residential Group Home in Surprise, Arizona on December 8th, 2025. 3 days later, she was driving a motorcycle that lost control on the loop 202 westbound on ramp Priest Drive in Tempe. She was subsequently hit and killed by a car. Unresolved questions, authorities noted, was unclear how she gained access to a motorcycle or where she had been during the days she was missing. It's kind of interesting. And then this is Zariah. Cause of death: she was murdered by a gunshot wound to the head. Circumstances: she was nearly 6 months pregnant when she disappeared from Sunshine Residential Home on the evening of July 4th, 2025. After being denied a request to see her child's father, but allowed to go for a walk, her body was found the next morning at, I don't know, some park in West Phoenix. So the legal outcome that they claim is 2 men, including 36-year-old father of her unborn child, were arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Records revealed Zariah had previously told her caseworker at Sunshine she was afraid of the man, and he allegedly threatened her with a gun. Now, you can take with that what you will. I personally think it's suspect. I believe it. I mean, Sunshine Residential should be shut down. I believe all these places that are literally popping up LLCs and bringing in our children and abusing them and trafficking them. The one here in Indiana. What the hell kind of program do you put your kid in, or does your kid get put in at that age where they could possibly be there for more than a year? No way in hell. I don't care how bad my kid is. I don't have bad kids, but if I did, I damn sure would not be putting them in a Christian ministry, group, home, ever. This is why I homeschool my kids. Because you can't trust anybody with your children. I mean, it's massive, and it just gets bigger. This is just something I've been working on for the last few days. This all comes together. I mean, these people, they go from one place to another if they get caught or they lose their license, and, you know, everything ends up coming back to California or Arizona in particular. So, I mean, that's all I really have on that. I did read and speak to several people that were residents of the one here in Indiana, and they have a forum where it's really sad. It's really sad. And Tim Blossom, all of them are all guilty of it. And now we have Zach over in Arizona taking care of state kids. And wow, 3 deaths. 3. Those odds are not very good. So that's what I'm going to leave you with for tonight. If you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe to the channel. I am new. I need all the help I can get. And I hope you have a good Friday night. My eyes are crossed and blurry from all the reading, and oh my gosh. Once you find someone's name and you Google that name and you come across them, everything just starts connecting and trying to get it to connect, and it's disgusting. And then it just really it's all revolved around the crazy shit Erica Kirk is doing and the churches she's involved in, and yeah. So I hope you guys have a good Friday night. Again, if you like this content, like and subscribe. Feel free to share, make a comment, leave a comment. I would love to chat it up with somebody, anybody. So have a good night, and I will see you again soon.